Yep, go ahead, Kelly.
Okay, evening, everyone. So welcome to the Thursday, May 27th meeting of the Albany Common Council's Public Safety Committee. For the record, committee members here, Joe Igo, looks like Mr. Hoey's also joining, along with, we have Council Member Richard Conti is also present. We have our staff, Mr. Pichardo, as well as Commander Anthony Bacciuello from APD, Sergeant Thomas Bahar from APD, unless he got promoted, and I didn't get told, and as well as the Community Police Review Board Chair, Ms. Nairobi Vivez. And so we're here to discuss the Citizens Police Review Board. More specifically, there were some complaints made by Ms. Vivez regarding the training. And so what I would like to do is start with Ms. Vivez, and then we'll have the APD folks go after that, and then we'll do public comment after. Ms. Vivez?
Good evening. I laid out everything in my letter, and I'm sorry for the background noise, having a little bit of a kid emergency right now in my house. But basically the night in question, I went to the CPA class, and the presenter was Detective Lieutenant Schechter. And during his presentation, as I put in my letter, he made a few comments that were, I felt insensitive or what have you, throughout his presentation, but it culminated in the incident that really was offensive and racist, talking about Black on Black crime, and specifically that Black people don't care about their community. And we engaged in sort of a back and forth from there. And then following that, after I let other members of the CPRB know what had happened, I found out that the same presenter had made similar comments in the past, and board members had complained then, and it seemingly nothing had happened except for a private apology, and not by Detective Lieutenant Schechter himself. So that is the basis of what happened. I don't know if you want me to go into specifics. I don't know if everyone is up to speed and has read the letter, but I don't want to take too much time.
Right. Yeah, and we had it, and it's my fault. What I probably should have done at the beginning, as Mr. Lieutenant Schechter is an employee of the city, and there's some stuff going on, I probably could have, and maybe should have had you give me details without mentioning him specifically. But I mean,
Sorry.
No, that's I didn't say that. So that's on me. And so what I would we're being joined by Councilmember Frederick, as well as Councilmember Ballerin. So, and now what I would, and my first inclination when we got the letter from you all was to try to let this complaint run its course, because there is an active complaint with Commander Bacciuello's office, and then have a meeting after that, but enough members felt concerned and we wanted to move ahead and kind of have a discussion. So what I like, and again, we're kind of getting into, I wanted some details about we wanted details about both the academy, aside from the issues, as well as the issues, but I'll stop going on now. And Commander, would you, and so Sergeant Bahar, it's Sergeant, right?
Yes.
Are you running the training?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Okay, so let me start with the commander first, because he outranks you. So
Certainly.
Commander, here you go.
Good evening. And really, all I'm prepared to comment on tonight is this is an active investigation. We started this several weeks ago. It wasn't too long. I don't know the exact date in front of me, but it wasn't too long after we received Ms. Vivas's feedback on her experience. And my office quickly reacted by opening up an investigation into the matter. So that's kind of where we're at right now. The investigation is still active and ongoing. And we are completing that process as we speak.
Okay. So before even letting the sergeant speak, any committee members have any questions or concerns or comments they want to put out there? Oh, Mr. Hoey.
Yeah, I was very concerned about the letter. And, what I learned in sexual harassment training, that if somebody feels uncomfortable, it should be addressed. So I'm glad that we're having this meeting. The one question I have for Ms. the Chair Vives is, do you think that the academy training for the committee is worthwhile or not? My own feeling is it is worthwhile, but if we can improve it, is it something that we should continue, or do you think it's not worth doing? So that was a question I had for her.
I think that with changes, it would be worthwhile. That's why we put in our letter that we wanted to be relieved of the requirement to have to continue the class as it is in this manner. I don't feel comfortable going back, and I haven't been back. And I understand that it is a requirement under the city code that CPRB members and our monitors do so. And I have no problem with following that requirement. But my concern is that letting behavior like that go unchecked and allowing for members of the of APD, and I don't mean to put his behavior on all the members of APD. So I just want to be clear with my statement, but this having happened previously with the same person and happening again, it's very concerning, because like it's just known that people see the police in a position of power because they are, and to stand before this group of citizens, some of the people that are there are not required to be there as we are. They've come out of interest. For him to stand there and to make these statements in his official capacity and from a position of power was just inappropriate to me in many ways, and untrue. And in our back and forth, I was just asking him to stop saying that, to revise your statement, and it didn't happen. So going back to what you originally asked, I did get some things from the class and with other presenters. I think I put this in the letter too, that they exhibited professionalism, and when we had critiques, myself and others, they said they were taking them back. And I think that was some tweaking and making the class a little bit more objective, and especially making it free from like racist ideas that at least one person shared. I think that it would be great, and part of our mission, I say all the time, it's written into the code, we want to repair the relationship. And I think this is one way to do it. It is one way for APD to show different sides of itself. But I just think that there needs to be some tweaks. And what we suggested was, maybe an outside consultant, and in addition, recording of the classes, so that if there are incidences that come up or things that need to be reviewed, that can happen.
Thank you. You're very brave, and I appreciate that you came to us, and I appreciate your input. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I really am. Nobody should be subject to something like that, and I'm sure we'll take care of it. Thank you.
I really appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Vives. Mr. Conti?
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Nairobi.
This is a question for the commander, not getting into any details. I guess there are two questions I have. Could you possibly give us a time frame within which you expect the investigation to be completed? And a second question generally with regard to the academy. At the end of the academy, are participants surveyed, like a questionnaire in terms of their experience, suggestions, et cetera, something along that nature to assess, participant satisfaction and what improvements you might make? So those are basically just two quick questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. And Councilman, I'll answer your second question first, because the simple answer is yes. We do actually issue surveys to the attendees. It is helpful, obviously, not only to improve on things that we are doing, but to obviously get their feedback too on their experiences and input, quite honestly, because, we pride ourselves for the Civilian Police Academy, and I'm sure the sergeant will elaborate on this when provided the opportunity to talk, that, that's for them. I mean, the experience is for them. There is no like set concrete way of doing that because, they're volunteering to go through that process to see what it's like, not only through the eyes of the police, but also police procedure, the laws that guide law enforcement and things of that nature. To answer your first question, I don't like to be nailed down to a specific date, obviously. Time frame wise, I mean, quite simply, as soon as possible. But I never sacrifice time, over, the facts. So whatever, however long it takes to be efficient through this investigation, really complete and thoroughness are the two-pronged approach for all these cases. I want to make sure that they're complete, thorough, and the detectives do a great job at doing that through all investigations, whether they're civilian initiated or administratively initiated. So I do hope that this will be wrapped up in due time. Next several weeks, it would be my estimation at this point. But again, we'll go through it completely and thoroughly first.
Great, thank you, I understand.
Okay, any other committee members? So okay, Ms. Frederick?
Thank you. So I have a couple questions, and I'd first like to thank the chair of the CPRB for being so courageous and brave and really bringing these things to light. Really appreciate that. And reading your letter was very eye-opening and shocking to me. So I know that took a lot for you to put it out there in the public, and I'm truly appreciative of you doing that and putting yourself out there. My two questions are related to, and please tell me if you can't answer because I know it's under investigation, but the officer that did these acts, he did it in the past. There's comments that similar things have happened in the past with this officer. At that time, was that investigated and or reprimanded? And then my second question is, has it ever been brought up about recording the sessions? And if so, during that discussion, if, what was the decision to not have those sessions recorded?
Thank you, Councilwoman. Yeah, so again, part two of your questions first. Myself and Sergeant Mahar actually recently had a conversation about recording these classes moving forward, and I think that's what we're going to be striving to do. As far as my predecessor and what decisions they made, I can't comment on that because I simply don't know the answer to it. I don't know if that's ever been brought up from a training standpoint, and if so, what decision was made as to not recording it. All I can tell you is, certainly based on this event and just for clear transparency reasons, I think it'd be beneficial for us to record these classes moving forward. And it's also helpful from a training aspect, quite honestly, to look back at the end of the curriculum and to view certain things, especially the role playing, which historically the attendees like to do because they really get to a physical approach at doing playing in a scenario in a practical way. So it's good to review those instances as well. To answer your first question, in all honesty, that is part of our investigation. So that will be detailed in the investigative report when it's concluded. I unfortunately cannot comment at this point.
Okay, Mr. Igo. you're muted.
Yeah, I can't get my hand up and I'm having a hard time unmuting. Commander, when you talk about recording, you just voice recording or considering going on to Zoom like we're here tonight?
Councilman, there will be video and audio recorded is what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ballerin.
Thank you. I want to appreciate the chairwoman for bringing this up, and I'm glad we're finally doing an investigation on this. You know, my question has more to do, I guess, with the surveys. If we are doing surveys, you know, have we gotten any feedback about this in the past, and are those surveys something that we can get a copy of, so we can get an idea of what's being asked to participants, as well as we can get a copy of the results, so we can help analyze and get a better idea of what people's experiences are while they're going through this. I think we could all agree that, you know, we're very troubled to hear about this situation, and more that it's happened, you know, before and hasn't been addressed. So is that information we can possibly get our hands on as well?
Yes, Councilman. Yeah, we do have surveys. I can only comment again on the last round, which would be the previous class to this current session, because that was during my time in this position. And I do have those, and I'd be happy to share that with the council. Obviously, you know, some folks can choose to be anonymous with their names, so you know, we might have to be discreet with the identity of those subjects. But you know, the actual documents themselves, I have no problem forwarding to this council for their review. And that last round, that last session, I can tell you that it was overwhelmingly, you know, positive. And there was a lot of good experiences and good feedback to not only the training unit based on what they saw and what they went through, but just, you know, their impression on the curriculum and the classes that they attended. So again, I'm only commenting on this last session that took place about a year ago, because that was the only one that was under my purview.
Okay. Thank you. And so, but just going to add some comments. Whether or not we should, you know, waive it or do away with it. I mean, it's not completely up to me. There's a number of us here on this committee that will make that decision. But if you're going to be making, as a board, decisions about what, you know, actions of police, I think you have to do the academy to better understand the job. Not that you get I mean, you get little snippets that help you in your decision making, but it's vital, I think, to as a civilian, a community police review board member, for you to understand how things work. So I would not be in favor of taking that away. But I would like to say thank you, Ms. Vives. It's important that this stuff gets put out there, because again, we're talking about a classroom where ideas are being shared. What does that translate into on the street when there are interactions and things are going? I mean, it could be disastrous. You turn a double victimize a person by taking that approach or having that attitude about folks. But yeah, thank you for coming forward with this. So Ms. Frederick, you got another question? Because I was going to go to Sergeant Mahar. Okay, Ms. Frederick.
You can go, Kelly. I can hold off.
No, I was going to ask Sergeant Mahar to just kind of overview of the academy and whatnot. So, but if you had a question, why don't you ask it before he starts? Sure
thing. So I guess I wholeheartedly agree with you, Kelly, but I do think that it's very dangerous to potentially proceed forward with the current protocols if these things are truly happening. Obviously, investigation is still going forward. So my question is more so, has any other officer facilitated this training in the past? And if so, maybe what we do is have a different officer take that role on while this proceeds forward with investigation and then resolution, just so that there's not that risk of it happening again. Fully understand that the investigation is still taking place.
Yeah, I think that his block or that block of training is done for this academy. Is that correct? So it won't occur again until the next class, but I'll have the sergeant speak to that. Mr. Bowering.
I kind of gotta agree with Sonia on this one. I don't know if you want to bring someone back into a place that they've feel like they've been mistreated while having the issue corrected beforehand. And I know we have a current active investigation. So to me, I think we need to have a conclusion of that investigation. Before you actually move to go back into an environment that they don't feel is open to their viewpoints. Now, let me also be clear. I think that we go to our corners too often and don't speak to each other or speak to people we disagree with. So I think it is important to have this as part of the process for the committee members to gain a perspective, but also for those who are in the uniform to also gain a perspective from the committee members and share ideas. And I think, we need more environments when you have people from two different groups who don't see eye to eye and, to be in a room and have a conversation. But from what I'm hearing and from what I've read, it wasn't so much of a conversation that this individual was looking to have, and it was more like a lecture. So I think, for me to feel comfortable with saying, we need to proceed as normal. We need to address the issue first. Have the investigation resolved, and then, see what the outcomes and the accountability has been done before we move forward and we're asking people to go back into that environment. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, thanks. I think you misunderstood me. I didn't mean like they have to go back now. I mean that they missed a couple of classes that they can work out how they get receive the rest of the training, whether it be like the next academy class or however they want to work that out. I just meant in general that I think it's a bad idea not to do the training. I wasn't saying those folks that were offended and slighted should go back now. Mr. Conti.
Yeah, I just want to clarify. I mean, the current academy is completed for this year, or is this still going on?
So
It's still going on.
Okay.
We have 2 more weeks.
Okay. And then ordinarily, the next academy won't start until sometime next year, correct?
Generally, we start it in March unless there's a request from someone who makes more money than I do.
Okay, yeah, I understand. So, in terms of, an immediate issue, I think if there is a problem, obviously, we need to fix it for everyone who participates. It's not just the CPRB members who participate in the academy. There's a broad range of citizens who participate in that academy. So we want to make sure it works for everybody. But in the interim, if there's a problem with Ms. Vives and the other CPRB member who have concerns and don't feel comfortable with participating in the remainder, I have no problem waiving that requirement, and hopefully, we'll, by the time the next academy comes up, everything will be, if there are issues, they'll be addressed, and it will be a productive experience for everyone who participates in it. I think that's what our focus has to be, make sure it works for everybody, because there's it's a broad range. I've often wanted to participate in the academy, but I will tell you, and for council members and our schedule, it kind of doesn't mesh. Maybe when I retire, I'll do that. But I've had good feedback from my constituents who participate in it. But I want to make sure it works for everybody, and that there's serious issues that have been raised, and they need to be investigated, and we need to address those.
If I may quickly, Victor Person, the other board member that was there, he's continued to take the classes Melody Harkness, who is our program manager, she's not required to go to the classes. She was going because she wanted to get the information, but it was just too much for her, so she stopped going. So I believe there are a couple of new board members that still need to take it, including myself, that this would apply to going forward.
Thank you. Mr. Igo, you're muted. You're still muted.
No?
Oh, good. You're good.
Okay. No, I'd just like to follow up on what Richard said. I agree with him. I've heard great things about this for probably the last 20 years, okay? A lot of people wishing that they could get into the academy. There has been a demand. I don't know if that's still there. Maybe you could tell me there, Commander or Tom. I think it's good. People said they got an awful good insight into it, learned things that they never understood before, and that it's good. And I hope that it doesn't damage the reputation of it. Maybe we just straighten it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Igo. Mr. Ballerin.
I wouldn't want to use the word waive, because I don't think we want to do that. I'd want to use the word pause. Pause the requirements until the investigation is complete, and then once that's completed, and we can see where we are and go from there. But I wouldn't want to use the word waive. I do think there is some real good use and potential and opportunity here that I wouldn't want to lose. But I also think we need to pause and reflect and get this investigation wrapped up and go from there.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ballerin. Sergeant Mahar, can you just quick overview of the academy, things taught, perspective? I mean, can you talk about the Citizens Police Academy?
Absolutely. It's a 14-week curriculum. We're trying to get every subject or division or function that we do as a police department. It's about a 3-hour class each Wednesday night. Sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. I know I've had good feedback from all the participants, including Ms. Vives. We've had good conversations. I had a good conversation with Melody a few times. So it's been eye-opening for me as well.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? The 14 weeks is a long time. It's a lot, especially if you work or have kids or what have you. So maybe we could even, and just trying to think about the subjects taught and what is vital for CPRB members to receive, what part of it is vital for them to receive. Maybe we could even, or you all could even create one that a training or some kind of curriculum specifically for them that can kind of be shortened or a truncated version of it that would get folks through. Because over the years, we've had people that went onto the board that had trouble or thought they'd have issues making the academy, getting through it, seeing as it is a requirement for being on there, and it caused some issues for some folks, but they got through it. But we don't want to inconvenience folks, and we want people to participate and see what the Albany Police Department does, because the Community Police Review Board is involved in making decisions based on some of the actions of officers, and it'd be helpful for them to understand a little bit why this or that was done. So I support the idea of continuing it, but if there are issues that they have to be corrected. And so I can remember a time when we had two. We do like a spring one and we do like one later in the year. So we're just on the spring or early in the year version of the Citizens Police Academy. That's where we're at, right? We only do the one.
I mean, I think there's definitely potential to go back to that. Councilman, when the timing is appropriate. Obviously, COVID this past year disrupted many things, obviously. But yeah, I mean, we have the means now because we have the academy, and we also have our training center that's operational. So we have the space certainly to accommodate those that are interested in it for sure.
Okay. And so unless, I mean, there's an ongoing investigation, we'd like to be kept apprised of that. Commander, I would ask that any correspondence or communications you have with Ms. Vivas regarding the complaint, maybe you include me on them. Are you okay with that, Ms. Vivas? If it's
Sure.
emails, or can you keep me in that loop so I can see where we're at? And we look forward to a resolution, you know, a healthy and peaceful resolution to this. We want obviously our board members participating in this academy, but this kind of back and forth that led us to be here today it's problematic. So we'll get that taken
I
care
can
of.
just say one last thing. I don't
Mhm.
think, just to echo what I said before, this doesn't have to be a throw the baby out with the bathwater situation. This dialogue right here that is looking, you know, taking this complaint seriously and looking to make changes so that, like, I don't know which council member said it, maybe Councilman Valorant, that everyone is comfortable and the class works for everyone. But we did have some experiences where I made comments or someone else in the class made comments that I thought might be not received well, and was received very well by members of APD, and started a very nice dialogue. And there was, you know, understanding from their side on different issues. Like we talked about like police discretion and like issuing tickets, and how you could see it from the citizen side. Or we talked about training, and maybe more training is needed. And there were some hot, like maybe harder to digest issues that were talked about in a very like good and respectful way on both sides. And I thought I was, not surprised, but I was happy, that this was a forum that this could happen. And so I think that it could be, and from what I'm hearing in the past, people have liked it, but I also know that in the past there was criticism, and the same criticism that I brought up. So I am very happy that this piece will be taken care of so that everyone can come, hopefully, and everyone can dialogue, and there can be this building of trust, and it can be this fruitful dialogue that I was able to participate in some of the classes. So I'm not advocating for doing away with it forever. I'm advocating for, and I think which everyone understands, fixing it so that it can be even better than it was, and that people don't have the same experience that I have from at least from this and that particular class. But thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. And just to the point you were just making, in your letter, you requested, utilizing maybe an outside consultant to come up with content. Or I don't really even think we need to do that. I think a discussion amongst CPRB folks, maybe some of this committee. I don't think we need someone outside. I mean, we know the difference between right and wrong. We know, we understand these things. So I don't know that we necessarily need a consultant. I mean, do you think we could get through that and work through that?
Sure. I was just trying to be as impartial as
So as
possible for both sides. Like if I've said my part, APD puts together the content, let someone else look at it. But this is an impartial third party outside group that could look at it. So I would be okay with that. I don't even know if there is such an organization or entity that could do that. But I think this dialogue right here starts that deep look into what is being presented. And I think also the consideration of recording it, if APD and OPS are already considering that is a big step too.
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, I think we've covered a lot of ground and had a healthy discussion. So unless anyone has questions or comments, I think we can adjourn.
I'll make the
Kelly?
motion.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
I had a question. Hello?
Okay,
Kelly,
all right.
Yeah, with COVID and, I work at the university and we do classes online. I'm just wondering, moving forward in the future, could some of the academy classes be put online? It would be very helpful. You mentioned 3 hours a night on 14 weeks, but if some of that could be done, using Zoom or some other tool, video-wise, plus it would record what was going on, it might be useful. I'm just throwing that out there as an idea because I'd like to go, but I just can't commit 14 weeks, 3 hours a night. Thank you.
Right. I think that could be a consideration. I mean, it makes sense. With COVID, we've kind of gotten in the habit of doing things remotely that we used to do in person, and it's certainly a possibility. I would say it could be considered. So with that, everyone, no more questions, comments. I move we adjourn. Okay. All right. Everyone, have a good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you for your time, Commander, Officer, and Chair. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Hey, Joe. You're muted.